Have you ever had a premonition dream? People often say dreams reflect daily life, but I think it's much more than that. Today, I'm sharing 2 posts on Zhihu, which sparked a lot of discussions. If you had similar experiences, keep watching. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. I'll see you every Saturday night. It was 2021 and I was in my senior year at university in Nanjing doing my graduation internship. Life was peaceful until one night in December, I had a nightmare. In the dream, I walked into Xuanwu Lake Park. It was around 8 or 9 p.m., dark, quiet, with the streetlights spaced far apart and had this dim yellow glow, barely lighting up the path. There were some pavilion-like structures by the lake, but without lights, they looked like eerie silhouettes. The trees were all crooked, like something out of a dark fairy tale. Every now and then, I saw someone taking a walk after dinner, but the area felt so deserted. I couldn't tell how long I had been walking, but the more I went on, the more unsettled I felt. The people on the road were becoming fewer and fewer, and I had no idea where this road was leading. Luckily, I eventually saw a few old houses with lights on, and further down the path, I came across another small gate to Xuanwu Lake. Finally, I stepped out. In front of me were some old houses, a couple of buildings made of red bricks, about 2 or 3 stories high, with a police station nearby. The path ahead was clearer. On the left was a row of trees with those street lamps spaced out. To the right, there was a residential area with detached villas, looking like they were built in the early 2000s. As I was walking, I noticed one house had its iron gate open, so I peered inside. In front of the house was a roofed entryway with 2 columns, and a few steps led up to the main door, which stood wide open, casting a warm yellow light. Outside, an old Mercedes was parked with one door ajar. I could even make out the license plate, which started with Su, indicating it wasn't locally registered. Just as I was about to turn around and leave, I heard a dragging sound behind me. I looked back and saw 2 men pulling a large sack out of the house, leaving a red trailer on the ground. It looked like half-dried blood. They lifted the sack into the car, and as it tore, I could see 2 legs sticking out. I was frozen in fear, my legs turning to jelly. Just then, one of them seemed to notice me and started walking toward me. I immediately turned and ran for my life, hoping to reach a busier road. The street stretched ahead and veered to the right, and I nearly tripped a few times. When I reached the corner, I looked back and saw a stone structure with big golden characters that read, Jinling Imperial Garden. No one was chasing me, but I kept running until I reached the main road. The lights were brighter, and I saw a bus stop for Taipingmen Station. On the left, I could make out Taipingmen ahead. At this point, I woke up suddenly, my heart pounding in my chest like it was going to burst. I couldn't even breathe properly. I sat up quickly, gasping for air, my back completely soaked with sweat. The dorm was eerily quiet, everyone was asleep, and the only light was from the hallway, casting a yellow glow that somehow made it even scarier. After I calmed down, I laid back down and started scrolling on my phone. By chance, I came across a posting asking about the local ghost stories in Nanjing. Curious, I clicked it, and there were mentions of things like the Nanjing University dismemberment case and the mass grave at Yuhuamen, which made me scared but excited. Then I saw a comment below. Has anyone heard of the Jinling Imperial Garden Massacre? Jinling Imperial Garden? That was the exact place I had dreamed about. I almost screamed out loud. With shaky hands, I googled Jinling Imperial Garden, and before I could finish typing, I saw the recommended search for Jinling Imperial Garden Massacre. Okay, let me explain this case, which was a huge national sensation at the time. On the night of April 1st, 2000, 4 unemployed young men from Shuyang County in northern Jiangsu broke into a villa in Jinling Imperial Garden to steal. After being discovered, they killed the owner, a German man named Pu Huang, along with his wife and son. The victim, Pu Huang, was 51 years old at the time. He was a deputy general manager in the Sino-German joint venture, Yangzhou Yaxing Mercedes-Benz. Pufang was a humble man, strict in his work and gentle in social relationships, so he had no personal grudges with the killer at all. Actually, the four young men had no intention of committing murder. They originally made a living by stealing motorcycles, but the money they got wasn't much. Later, they saw an advertisement and learned that Jinling Imperial Garden, located by Xuanwu Lake, was Nanjing's most upscale villa community. So they decided to try their luck in the wealthy neighborhood. That night, they broke into the neighborhood, intending to rob an empty house with no lights on. However, the house they chose was under renovation and had nothing to steal. In the end, they decided to target Pufang's house next door. They sneaked in quietly, but the noise finally alerted the homeowner. The family realized they were being robbed and tried to negotiate with them. But because of the language barrier, the thieves finally lost patience and decided to kill the family to silence them. After the murder, the four young men, aged 18 to 21, were arrested and later sentenced to death. However, Pufang's mother expressed that she didn't want the four young men to be sentenced to death. She believed their death wouldn't bring her son back. Nevertheless, the court ultimately upheld the original sentence. Later, it was revealed that the four young men came from poor families, had little to no education, and no formal employment. In November, some Germans and other foreign expatriates living in Nanjing formed an association in memory of the Pufang family. The association was dedicated to improving the lives of children in the poor areas of Jiangsu. The funds they raised went towards paying for the school fees of children from poor families, hoping to help them complete their education and giving them the opportunity to live a self-sufficient and fulfilling life. So, what I saw and heard in my dream matched the murder case perfectly. Even the Mercedes car was the same. Just to clarify, I'm a real homebody. Even though I studied in Nanjing, I really went out and visited the spots, so I had no idea such a place existed. But the actual Google Maps street view of Jinling Imperial Garden looked almost exactly like what I saw in the dream. At that point, I started sweating like crazy. I don't even remember how I managed to fall asleep again after that. The next day, I went to my internship as usual, but I felt completely off, like my soul had left my body. During work, I couldn't focus at all. The dream kept spinning in my mind. So I opened Google Maps to check out Jinling Imperial Garden, and to my shock, the route from my dream actually existed in real life. As shown in the map, if I followed the path I took in the dream, there was indeed a small island-like marker ahead. Just as I expected, it was a big stone with Jinling Imperial Garden carved into it. And if I kept walking, I'd end up at Taipingmen. I was so freaked out that I shared the story with my roommate. They got scared too and tried to find some explanations to calm me down. We dug deeper into the murder case, and my roommate even found the exact location of the murder house from real estate listings. They had intended to find a flaw to prove that everything was just a coincidence, but instead, they discovered that all the details matched perfectly. This thing truly couldn't be explained. I was so terrified that I didn't even think twice, just immediately took leave and went back to home. Actually, ever since I came to Nanjing for university, I've always felt like the energy here just doesn't suit me. Every time I enter Nanjing, I feel this heavy, oppressive feeling, like my whole body aches and my head is spinning. But as soon as I leave Nanjing, I feel fine again. I stayed at home for a few days before going back to school, and even today, just recalling what happened in the hot weather makes me break out in cold sweat. And that's where the post ends. The comment section was full of discussions about the murder case. Later, in 2022, the OP came back to update the post. She mentioned that ever since the whole experience, she had been getting sick continuously, though they weren't sure if the two things were connected. In the new year of 2022, I inexplicably got really sick, and I would randomly trip and fall as if someone was tripping me. But when I look back, no one was there. I've always been someone who works out regularly, so my coordination and balance are fine. I also have a good health, hardly ever catching a cold. But on New Year's Eve this year, I suddenly developed a high fever out of nowhere. That whole night, my head was splitting, my limbs were aching, and it felt like something inside my bones was gripping. I was in agony the entire night, drenched in cold sweat. It took 2 days for the fever to break, and right after that, I got hit with acute gastroenteritis. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Other small injuries kept happening too, like getting hit by an electric bike on my hand, bumping into the edge of the bed or table, and my hands and feet randomly hurting. In short, it's been a year of constant illness and pain. Some people said I might have picked up something bad, and while I didn't want to believe it, honestly, it's hard to explain all of this. I think she likely just doesn't align well with Nanjing's energy. I've heard some feng shui masters say that Nanjing's elemental attribute belongs to fire within the 5 elements. If that's the case, people with a lot of gold in their birth charts might find themselves in conflict with the city's energy. Fire can melt gold after all. Another possibility is Nanjing's heavy historical burden, the Nanjing Massacre during World War II, which is a chapter that remains a painful scar in the hearts of all Chinese people. This could unconsciously add to a sense of emotional pressure, making some feel uneasy. So, on July 16, 2024, I went on a business trip to Ningbo, Zhejiang province. After spending the night there, I headed to Tiantai County and checked into the blah 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 hotel, room 401. It looked like the first room on the floor, but it was actually the last one, and right next door was a storage room. I'd heard people say that the last room on the floor is bad luck, but honestly, I'm not super into the whole ghost thing, so I didn't think much of it. After dinner, I went back to my room, turned on the TV, and ended up falling asleep around 10 p.m. I usually sleep pretty well and rarely dream, but ever since I checked into this hotel, I started having the same dream over and over. In the dream, I was lying in bed, and there was this woman with long hair floating above me. She was covered in dust and grime, and her face was all burned. She didn't say anything, just stared at me. I woke up scared right away. At first, I thought maybe it was just because I was really tired from the trip, and so I turned on all the lights and cranked up the TV to calm myself down, then fell back to sleep. But as soon as I did, I had the same dream again. And this time, the woman was wearing the uniform of a foot massage therapist and giving someone a foot massage. Then I woke up again, completely freaked out. After that, I couldn't sleep in that room anymore, so I went down to the front desk to ask if I could switch rooms. They told me there were no rooms available, but honestly, I didn't dare to go back. So I just sat in the lobby on the sofa, playing on my phone, and stayed up until morning. By 7 a.m., I went to the restaurant for breakfast, and after eating, I felt a little better. I figured it's daytime now, so hopefully no more spooky stuff. I decided to go back to my room to catch up on some sleep before hitting the road again. I woke up again around 9:50, still groggy. As I was reaching for my phone, I suddenly heard a woman's voice right behind me. It was so close, like it was right by the back of my head, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. Then I felt this weird muscle twitching sensation in my back, like something was trying to crawl into my body. I jumped out of bed in panic. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and I always carry some calming incense with me. So I quickly grabbed some cinnabar powder from my bag and rubbed it on my forehead. It's said to ward off evil spirits. Then I packed up my stuff and checked out as fast as I could. Once I was outside, I took a deep breath and felt much better. After finishing my work with the client, I still had some time, so I thought I'd visit a nearby temple to clear my head and maybe get some spiritual cleansing. I got to the temple, went in and offered incense. While I was concentrating on my prayer, a young priest, probably in his mid-20s, kept staring at me. He looked like he wanted to say something. When I was about to leave, he stopped me and said, "You've encountered a vengeful spirit. I mean, a spiritual creditor." A spiritual creditor? What did that mean? It's a woman with long hair, like she was burned to death. You met her around midnight last night, and now she's following you. I froze, my spine went cold. I immediately asked, Is she still following me? She's right behind you now. Can you help me get rid of her? I can, but it will cost you 1,500 yuan, no bargaining. I was terrified, but I also thought that was a bit too expensive. The priest continued, this kind of toys practice isn't something I can just give away cheaply. My master always said that spiritual skills shouldn't be undervalued. I calmed myself down and started to think that this young priest might be trying to scam me. So I turned him down and said I'd figure it out myself. But before I left, he gave me a talisman with a seal and told me to keep it close. He said it would protect me temporarily. Later, I asked a friend to find another master to help me deal with the situation. I won't go into details, but it was handled. This whole experience really shocked me, even though I'm a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. But this is not the end. Later, when I searched online for Tiantai County foot massage shop fire, I actually found a news article about it. According to news reports, on February 5, 2017, a major fire broke out at the Zuxingtang Foot Massage Parlor in Chicheng Street, Tiantai County, Zhejiang Province. The fire resulted in 18 deaths and 18 injuries. The cause of the accident was a malfunction in the electric heating film in the northwest corner of the sweat room, which caused local overheating, igniting surrounding combustible materials and spreading into a disaster. In the end, the police held 9 individuals accountable and imposed legal penalties on them. I've also got the chat history with my friend to prove it. This really happened, no exaggeration. In a spiritual context, a spiritual creditor refers to spirits bound by complex entanglements and karmic ties with living beings over this life or past lives. Some of these ties may have formed through acts of kindness and goodwill, creating positive karmic bonds, while others may have originated from harm or resentment, creating negative karmic bonds. Such spirits with deep-seated ties are more likely to re-encounter each other across lifetimes. These karmic bonds, triggered by different emotions or actions, often require resolution in similar forms. For instance, karmic ties of love might manifest in romantic relationships, while debts tied to life or material possessions might demand repayment through severe consequences such as life itself. This is why these spirits are challenging for spiritual masters to resolve. Intervening could mean preventing the creditor from collecting their dues, potentially entangling the master in that karmic debt. Applying this logic to the OP's experience, it seemed that the OP was destined to cross paths with this woman. Yet due to a tragic accident, her spirit became trapped, and when she encountered the OP, her unresolved bond pulled her toward him, making it impossible for her to reincarnate. This indeed reflects the essence of a tragic story within a tragedy. Well, that wraps up this video. Oh, I have a question for everyone. I've compiled a popular story post about a family who, by sheer chance, moved into an old movie theater and lived there for 6 years, only to experience numerous terrifying events. The content is pretty fascinating. However, I can't vouch for its authenticity. It might just be a spooky tale written by someone online. The story is very long, so I split it into 2 episodes. So, would you be interested in hearing this ghost story? Leave a comment if so, and I'll start preparing it.